Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had started up the 2017-18 season, and this team is looking quite good at this point. As you can see, we are 14-7-3, and if we look at our individual stats, we are actually doing pretty decent in most things. Goals against maybe a little bit high at 13th, but it isn't terrible. So obviously, so far, we're off to a pretty good start, and hopefully the rest of the season continues like that. So we do still have a little bit of question marks though with this team, because there is guys in the AHL that should probably be in the NHL at this point, because you can see our defensive core right now. It's a nice young defensive core, but there is guys that should be maybe pushing some people out of our lineup potentially as well. So even though I don't think I'm going to make a trade in this episode, there is still the possibility we trade somebody on this defensive core in the next one, even though we are doing good right now, just because guys like Parayko and Rodriguez are basically ready to go. So it'd be nice to get one of those guys in the lineup this season. I'd say more so Rodriguez, just because he's the younger of the two. Both of them are DFDs, Parayko and Rodriguez, so they're basically the same type of thing. And yeah, you can see that Rodriguez is a little bit better defensively than Parayko. So it would be nice to get Rodriguez in and basically move out somebody on the left-hand side of things, because we don't have really a lot of right-handed defensemen. I think actually one of the lefties might shoot right, if I remember right. Let's just double check on that. Maybe not, actually. Double check Kalinka. No, I guess they're all left-handers pretty much, but it would be nice to get 3 righties and 3 lefties on this defensive core, so we might have to make some changes coming up. But for right now, I will probably keep it the same, just because we're a decent enough team at the moment. So yeah, this is basically our roster, and yeah, I'm hoping that this team can kind of maintain itself up until the trade deadline, and then obviously at the trade deadline in next episode, we can make some tough decisions with, like, if we need to move out some people to upgrade certain areas, if there's any underlying issues at that point in time. But with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will continue simulating more of the season and see if this team can continue on the good streak it's been on as of late. So the first comment is from Max Effort, who says, I knew Nelson and Fata were going to take the next step, and yeah, Nelson and Fata have both been very good. It's been kind of a pleasant surprise that both of them have been getting much better, because obviously when we brought in Nelson, we weren't too sure how he would fit this team, but he has done absolutely awesome. Last year he was point per game when we brought him in. This year he's point per game around the season, and you can see last year as well in the playoffs he was near point per game, so he's been a really good fit on that second line. And then also George Fata, or Jorge Fata, whatever you want to call him. I would say George Fata, but he's actually leading the team in goals with 17 goals in his first 24 games. Last year he only had 26. The year before that he only had 12. So he's getting better and better every single season in terms of goal scoring. And right now he's shooting 25.4%. So if he continues on this pace, he's easily going to have like a 30-40 goal season, maybe even higher than that. So very, very excited to see if he continues to play like that. Like, he honestly is like the perfect player to put next to Cameron and McKinnon. So he might be pushing like Gus Nyquist potentially out of Edmonton at some point. You never know. But I've been very impressed with how he has been performing, and I hope that he continues to get better. And the last and final comment is from Sarataku, says, not sure which defenseman you should trade, but I would likely favor the OFD, since a third pairing should probably have more defensively minded. Yak and Holden should be also potential targets to move out from. So he's saying basically he would probably part with one of the OFDs on the defensive core. And those guys being Miroslav Zhurdev, who is obviously an 82 listed as a top 4. He's already 24 years old, so he's probably not going to get too much better, but he could get up to like maybe an 83, 84, something like that. And then there's also Mackey, who hasn't played a ton yet in the NHL. He's only played 2 seasons. He's on pace for a better year this year, but he's only 23 years old. He's a low elite defenseman, so there's a chance he could be a top 4 at some point, or he might kind of just stay as a 79. But he's one of those right-handers, so I'm not too sure if we should be moving out somebody like him. Right now, he does actually work okay with Moss still, like Zhurdev does, so I guess there's technically a possibility, though, in next episode, if we do make a defensive change, we could move out Zhurdev or Mackey, and then we could call up one of those other DFDs, basically, in Rodriguez or Parayko, just so that way the AHL team is getting more younger guys into the lineup at that point. So definitely we'll make those decisions, I think, in next episode, because right now I like the way this team's simulating, and I don't really want to screw with things, so I think we'll probably keep it the same. He was also mentioning about potentially moving on from guys like Yakupov and Holden. Yakupov so far definitely has been quite disappointing, especially defensively. He's definitely somebody that we could move away at some point in time, but obviously we could see if he's good enough for the rest of the season. If he's not good for the rest of the season, we do have him signed for 3 years, and he's got a movable contract, so I think we should be able to still trade him in the offseason if we don't trade him during the season. But obviously that's an area we could upgrade, and we can move Val up if we really want to. And then we could get guys like, I think it was, Brock McGinn into the lineup, because Brock McGinn's actually listed as a fourth liner, so maybe impartially it makes sense to move Nikushkin to this third line and then get rid of Yakupov and then get McGinn on that fourth line. But for the time being, I think we'll keep it like this, and there's probably going to be injuries down the stretch anyways, so Yakupov will come out of the lineup and McGinn can come in. As for Dale Holden, he's definitely somebody I'm not too high on. The main reason why is he's got great offensive awareness and good shooting, but I don't know if it's just the lack of ice time with this team or what, but he probably needs a lot more ice time on a different team. He's only averaging 7 minutes a game this season. I don't think there's really a chance I could get him on our power play or anything like that, so I think he's kind of in a bad role because he's behind Latty, Nyquist, and Fada, so I think moving out him at some point also does make sense, but I'm not too sure on exactly what we need in return. So yeah, with that said, I think we're ready to continue simulating. Obviously, I hope that this team continues on the last stretch it's been on. It's been 8-2 in the last 10, but obviously there is just a couple issues that we might have to sort out probably in next episode, but maybe it's late in this episode if this team starts to fall off a bit. But right now we've been really good as of late, so I'd probably like to keep it the same for the time being. So with that said, let's continue simulating. We're only at December the 1st, so we might as well try and get up to like at least a day before the trade deadline in this episode, unless this team starts to plummet and we need to make changes sooner. Alright, so let's go a couple weeks at a time. Let's go to the 12th, see how we do in the first few weeks of December, see if this team continues on the good note. And we start off on a bad note, losing 6-2. Vasilevsky's fully healthy, which is good because he was injured in last episode, but he is back in, which is good. We do beat the Yotes 4-3. It's a nice win to return to form there. We do lose to Colorado 3-1, but didn't beat the Yotes again. Didn't lose to San Jose. So a bit of an inconsistent start to December. Basically a loss win, a loss win, a loss win. So we're just flip-flopping, but that's at least good enough though, because we had a really good start to the season that it doesn't matter too much that we're kind of doing that. But still a lot more games left to go this month. So let's go to January the 1st. See how we do in the last half of December. Hopefully it's a bit more consistent as we lose that next game. Phoenix, again, for the third time this month, as Carsons is on waivers. I don't think I really need somebody like Martin Carsons, but he's a decent depth option, I guess, but we're not going to claim him. We played the Yotes again. We beat them for the third time this month, and there's back-to-back wins as we also beat Chicago. And then we lose to Nashville. Anaheim, we lose 2 in a row. Chicago, again, is an 8-1 win. Wow. I'm surprised that we're able to beat teams like Chicago 8-1, and then we beat LA 3-2. I'm saying 32, but 21-13-3 at January the 1st. Definitely not as good of a month because it was a loss win for quite a while, but it's still a pretty good month when you win at least, like, say, 60% of your games. So I'll definitely take it, but definitely a little bit of a slower month, but we're still very good at this point. We are third place in the Northwest Division, only behind the Avs and the Flames. So did any stats drastically drop off? I'm curious on that after that month. Let's go back to this for a second. We're still really good in goals for. Goals against has stayed the exact same. Special teams have gotten worse since this month has begun. Alright. So our special teams might need some changes. But for right now, we'll probably keep it the same. Just because we're a good 5-on-5. If anything falls off a lot, obviously we could make some adjustments. But it's kind of okay to be a mid-team in terms of a lot of things in a way. You don't want to be outright like the best because, or else you might be an early exit in the playoffs. So I think I'm okay with how this team's been simulating, but obviously, hopefully we don't just keep win one, lose one type of scenario because it's not the best recipe for success. So yeah, let's go to the end of January, I guess. Actually, no, let's go a couple more weeks again. Just do it 2 to 3 weeks at a time, just to kind of see how the team does during that span. So Game against Chicago. Again, we've played Chicago a lot to start off this episode. We win 2-1, and Parayko's been injured with a sprained ankle in the AHL, which kind of sucks because he's one of those guys that could get called up, but I'd probably prioritize Rodriguez because he's got better defensive results, and he's also a little bit younger too. So, also, I do like my lowly players. Chicago, again, we lose 6-3 there, so they actually beat us this time, as Boston has fired their head coach, Demetrius Hendricks. What a name. Demetrius. Not enough Demetriuses out there anymore. Third and a sixth round pick for a third in Darling. I don't think I need Scott Darling, to be honest, because I think our goaltending situation's okay the way it is, but I appreciate it, Colorado. Vancouver's a 6-4 loss as we get another offer, a third and a fifth for a third, and Laurent Brossoit. Obviously, Brossoit in real life played for the Oilers. I don't think we need Laurent Brossoit at this point, but I appreciated Detroit. Ottawa, 4-3 win in a shootout. We do beat San Jose 4-2, so still a little bit more inconsistent since we started this episode, but our record still looks nice at 24-15-3, so even though some things have probably been falling off, I think it's okay the way this team has been assembling at this point. So let's go another week. We have 3 games this week: Vancouver, Colorado, and San Jose again. And while that's an interesting one, we do have an injury to Zherdev, so that's one of those OFDs we were mentioning about potentially trading. He's out with an upper body injury till right around the end of the month. I guess I'll go replace player for the time being, but obviously we could always call up Rodriguez at that point. Oh, maybe we are going to have to call up Rodriguez because Safronov, who is the depth defenseman, just got injured now too, and he's out for a little bit, so I guess we could call up Rodriguez if he doesn't go through waivers, which I'm honestly not too sure if he does. Let's just put in a random forward for the time being, like Brock McGinn. Go down to the AHL here. Does Rodriguez go through waivers? Because I can't call up Parayko. Let's see. No, he does not go through waivers. Okay, so I guess Corbin Rodriguez will get to play his first NHL game this season, which I think is not a bad timing for it. Yeah, he's on pace for having a career high in the AHL, so let's go to roster moves, call him up so he can play at least a few games. We'll send him back down once these injuries are done with. But yeah, this is a good time to call him up, I guess, just with these injuries. And that way he could get a taste of NHL action. Parayko should be back relatively soon for Springfield as well. So let's get Corbin into the lineup as well. We'll make an AHL adjustment here. We'll move Ma up. He's jumped to a 75. Damn, Ma is developing really quickly. He might be in the NHL lineup next season too, or traded if we need to trade somebody away. But let's get Parayko into that second pairing for the time being. And I guess we'll put him on the extra attackers as well. I don't really care too much about the extra attackers in the AHL, to be honest. So even if it's a bunch of defensemen, so what? They're high overall. So there is that. We will go back to the NHL. Let me just make sure the defensive pairings are looking good here with our boy Rodriguez in. Let's see how he fits. Doesn't fit that second pairing super well. More of a fit for the top 6 pairing, which makes sense. So we'll put him down here. It doesn't work the best with Metropolitan. That's unfortunate. Would it work well with Mackey? It would. Okay. So technically, if we wanted to move out Zherdev, this is what our defensive pairings probably would look like. And you guys could get at least a little bit of a taste of how it would work out. So we'd move Metro up and in Mackey. The OFD would have to play with the DFD in Rodriguez. Or we would have to trade Mackey instead and see if Zherdev works with Rodriguez. But yeah, that's not that bad, I guess. Alright, so there is that. Let's see how Rodriguez does in a few games. I don't know how much games he's going to get in, but hopefully he does a good enough job. We already put Parayko in, so that's fine. So we did beat Colorado 4-1. We also beat San Jose 5-1, so a couple of great defensive results. Let's go another week. Zherdev should be back within the next few days. We lose to Colorado 5-3. Minnesota's a 5-2 loss, and Zherdev is back. So those last 2 games, not super good defensively. Hopefully Rodriguez wasn't exposed. Let's take a look at how Rodriguez did in his short span before we send him down. He did score his first NHL goal. Shout out to him. He comes up here for 4 games only and scores a goal on one of his only 2 shots on net. So Corbin Rodriguez definitely wants to play in the NHL, I think, at this point. Solid enough defensively. We'll probably have to call him back up here later this season. But for right now, he's going to get sent back down. And he will play in the AHL. I just can't use him as a healthy scratch because he's not a depth defenseman. Don't want him getting a little bit mad about ice time and all that stuff. So We will probably call him back up in a few months, or if there's another defensive breakdown injury-wise, something like that. Let's get Jurdev back in there and move him back to that second pairing. That's glitched out because that wasn't -2 before, I'm pretty sure. And we will take Parayko out of the lineup for a second here to get Rodriguez back into his initial spot. We'll move Ma back down. We'll take CC back out of the lineup for Colton Parayko. Perfect. AHL's good to go. Let's check on NHL. Yep, chemistry's back to square one again. Okay, good. Everything should be good there. I mean, I could move Metro, I guess, back to the left side and Mackey back to the right. And that's good. Perfect. All right. The last few games of this month, let me stop the sim. We did beat St. Louis in a shootout. And this last game in a month against Detroit is a 5-2 win. Okay. Definitely still some inconsistencies, but we're 29-17-3, so I don't think there's a reason to complain. We are third place in our division, only 2 points back of the top spot with games in hand. So, yeah, so far this team is actually still pretty much on cruise control, even though there has been some hiccups here and there. Let's take an updated look at our rankings in terms of goals for and all that. Just curious on that. So our offense has dropped off to 11th, so we aren't as good offensively anymore. Our goals against only dropped back 1 spot, so that's not a huge issue. Power play is looking pretty good at 8th now, so our power play is improved. And our penalty kill is kind of staying mid, but in general, pretty happy with those results. Like I said, we don't need to be the #1 team in every single thing, so I like that a decent amount. All right, let's continue to simulate. We're going to go up to a day before the deadline, which should be in March, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, March 2nd. So let's go another couple weeks, see if this team could maybe improve in the areas that we're struggling in. If they aren't, it's not a huge issue, but it's definitely something we could still address if we really want to in the next episode, and that's unfortunate. So we sent Corbin Rodriguez back down to the AHL, and then he gets a neck strain, so he'll be out for a week. We'll go replace player on that for the time being. Safronov is back, but he's a depth defenseman, so he's not even ready to play, and oh no. Wow, that's a substantial injury at this point. Vasilevsky has had some pretty big injury concerns in this franchise mode so far for a young goaltender, especially with franchise potential. He'll be out with an MCL sprain till April the 1st, which means he is not back for 2 months. And we might need another goaltender in that sense. But, I mean, this is McClement's time to shine, I guess. We could call it McClement. He's a 77 overall. McClement did play a little bit earlier this season as well, I'm pretty sure. So, McClement's going to get a big chance here to play a decent amount of games with Vasilevsky being out, but I wasn't expecting to rely on McClement yet because I was going to use him as our backup probably next season once we let go of Ruskovich, but it's going to be Ruskovich and McClement up until April the 1st. We could technically bring in another goalie if we wanted more of a veteran goalie than McClement, but I don't think McClement's that far off of an NHL talent, so it's not a huge issue in my opinion, but it definitely hurts to lose Vasi at this point, because that could definitely hurt us in terms of where we're sitting in the standings, goals against, and that's that type of stuff. So the rest of that should be good, but Vasi being out, damn man. I don't think he's had a fully healthy season yet at this point. Like, if we look at Vasilevsky's stats the last 2 years, I guess he's had some full seasons, like 74 games, 70 games, but then he's dropped down to 68 last year. He missed a couple. And in this season, he's on 45, and he's going to be probably barely hitting 50. Maybe a little bit more than 50 games this year. But yeah, he's definitely had his injury troubles here so far, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. All right, let's continue to simulate, see if we can win some games without Vasilevsky. So far, a win and a loss. Minnesota again, win there. And then we also actually shut out the Red Wings, so far looking decent enough without Vasi. It makes sense, though, because Ruskovich is actually not a bad goaltender, too. Let's get CC out of the lineup here and get Rodriguez back in since he's back from his injury or from his neck strain. Wonder if he was playing too much video games or something like that. Game against Nashville coming up is a 5-1 loss. Nashville's a good team, so it makes sense. 5-3 loss to win to St. Louis. Goddamn, can't talk. 33-19-3 at this point. We are second place, only behind the Avs. We do have one more game played, though. But we're looking pretty good for making the playoffs again this year, which is a great sign with this young team. All right, let's continue to go. Let's do another week. 3 games, Vancouver, Philly, and Minnesota. Vancouver is a 4-2 win. Philadelphia 2-0 shutout. So another shutout since Vasi's injury. That's interesting. And then we lose 5-1. So still some inconsistencies, but to get 2 shutouts after Vasi's injury is good. So Ruskovich or even maybe McClemott's playing really good too. If McClemmott comes in and does a really good job, he's definitely pushing Ruskovich out next year for sure. So liking that so far. Anyways, a little bit of a busy week. St. Louis, Minnesota, Columbus, Detroit, and Anaheim. And then we have one more game before the trade deadline. So let's go through that. And then we'll go through the LA game and see what we're looking at like at that point. Nice 2 games there. 4-2 win and a 5-0 win. So another shutout. 4-0 loss to Columbus. Then we beat Detroit. 9-1 win over Anaheim. God damn. And our last game of February against the Kings, who have fallen off a bit, is an 8-5 loss. Damn, how did we let in 8 goals against a team below 500? Maybe they're going to make a comeback and make the playoffs again. Who knows, really, but damn. Anyways, 39, 22, and 3, which means to end this episode, we are finishing in first place in the Northwest Division at the moment, but we do have 3 more games played than the Avs, and they have only 2 less points. But Tampa Bay's already clinched a playoff spot at this point. That's actually kind of insane. 101 points already on the season for them. All right. Well, let's take a look at some stats here. See what's going good for us at this point in time. We will do it instead via the standings screen, just because for the standings, I kind of want to see who's the best team in the NHL and all that for fun too. So, currently we are... Wow, we're a top 10 team in the NHL. We're 6th place. Only behind Pittsburgh, New Jersey, Ottawa, Washington, and Tampa. Of course, Tampa, like I said, has already clinched a playoff spot. Who is the worst team in the NHL at this point? Still Montreal. They've got 17 wins now, but they're definitely still really bad, which is surprising. Florida's down there, Vancouver, Boston, Minnesota, Atlanta. All right. This would be the Rasmus Dahlin draft, or was that last year's draft? No, that would be this year's draft, technically. That's what I was saying. Buffalo's not down there. That kind of sucks. Oh, well. In terms of goals for per game, how is our offense looking? Actually pretty good. We have a top 10 offense again, 3.39, so we're scoring a lot of goals. Goals against wise, we are just outside the top 10? Yeah, just outside of the top 10, so I do not mind that whatsoever. And then power play percentage is really good. Our power play is top 10 in the league. And penalty kill, 84.1%. Is also not too far out of the top 10, but it's kind of more mid-table. So, in general, looking pretty good. We are also up there in shorthanded goals scored this season, so maybe Marcoux is getting back to scoring shorthanded goals. 17 and 13 on home ice, but 22, 9 and 3 on the road. So, very good stats. 7 and 3 in our last 10 games. This team is looking pretty good. And like I said, we could make some defensive adjustments if we need to with those young defensive core, or we could just wait till next season, maybe make a trade at the draft instead. But this team is looking really nice, and this is definitely probably one of our best seasons yet at this point in time. All right, in terms of player stats, wow, McKinnon's already on 76 points. Let's do a little bit of a slow reveal here on each position, just because it's kind of more fun that way. I have my eyes closed, squinting barely so I can't see anything. Boom, boom, boom. Changed it to centers. And here's our center stats. So Nathan McKinnon's on 76 points, 64 games, 25 goals. He's having a breakout year. Looking good. 58 points for Cameron. Under point per game, but still right around it. So another good year for Cameron so far. Nelson's on 53 points. He's still fitting his team really good. He's not point per game, but he's still definitely spreading that offense out on that second line. Marcoux is on 46 points. Marcoux having a really big year, and I'm not too sure exactly why. Maybe it's a little bit more power play time than last year, but he's already got more points than last season. He doesn't have any of our shorthanded goals, despite us being the best shorthanded team almost in the league with shorthanded goals. But he's got 2 shorthanded points. I really like Marcoux, man. This guy's awesome. He's a perfect third-line center, but he's almost getting close to being a second-line center based on his overall. I don't know if that's natural growth, but he's looking really nice, especially at 940K. Jenner's actually having a pretty good season too now. He's improving 17 points in 64 games on that fourth line at +8. I have no problems with any of these guys. From a left-wing perspective, Nyquist is on 63 points as the pending free agent. Of course, because he's a pending free agent, he wants more money. 24 goals and 63 points is great. Looking really good for Gus. Latty's also having a great year, 37 points for him. Holden's on 19 now. Okay, so Holden's starting to figure out his offensive game a bit. Because when we looked at him last, he didn't do too much, but 10 goals and 19 points now. Looks like we're starting to figure out that offensive game a bit more in the bottom six, so maybe Holden is starting to finally find that NHL game that he had at the AHL level. From a right wing perspective, Fada's on 29 goals, 50 points, looking really solid. He had 17 goals when we started this episode, so he's only scored 12 since, which is not a lot. But 50 points this year, he's definitely getting much, much better than last year. He's only 1 point above point per game from last year. But he's got 18 more games left this season, and he's potentially, he could hit 40 goals still, but I don't know if he will. Depends on, I guess, how good we are down the stretch, but he's a very useful player. He gets good power play points, good short-handed points. Yeah, Fada's one of the more underrated players on this team, and we brought him in from the LA Kings, and I'm glad we did, because he's looking nice. Toffoli on 47 points, solid year for him so far. Yakupov's still minus 10. I don't understand how he's a minus 10 on this team, but 15 goals, 25 points is solid, but definitely needs to be better defensively. I mean, he does have low awareness, so it kind of makes sense. So maybe we need to still look into finding a better third liner. Maybe we move Val up. Val has less points, but better defensive results. Tough to say. From a defensive standpoint, Falk is on 36 points and a plus 19. He's looking good. Moss is on 15 points, minus 5. Still scoring more goals than assists, which is weird for a defenseman, but that's the way it's been so far for him. We have Mackey on 15 points, plus 10. Not bad. He is an OFD, so he should probably be doing a bit more offensively, but he is growing in the right way. Zherdev as an OFD has the same amount of points in less games. Worse plus minus. So if we are still to part with an OFD, I'm not too sure which one. Halink on 12 points plus 22. He's looking great. Metropole 8 points plus 2. And then Safronov scored in his only game this season as a depth defenseman. So that's quite impressive. Obviously, he hasn't played a lot of games since his first season, but he is more of a career depth defenseman than anything else. From a goaltending perspective, Vasilevsky was 24, 15, and 2 before his injury. Only the one shutout, but oh my goodness. What is his first name? Ricardo McClement. Yeah, I thought that's what it was. 4-1 in his first 5 games, 2 shutouts, and .937 save percentage of 1.8 goals against average. He has been outperforming Ruskovich for sure, which makes me feel like Ruskovich is on the absolute hot seat already. But McClement definitely will be pushing him out likely next season. But McClement's came in and done a really good job since Vasi's injury, so goaltending's looking pretty good. Ruskovich could probably improve a bit, but in general, pretty happy with most of the results on this team so far. Let's take a brief look at the round the league just for fun, because it's kind of fun just to see who's leading in all categories. So Ovechkin's still leading in points with 113. Stamkos leading in goals, 61 goal season for Stamkos at this point. Okay, he's the only 60 goal scorer already. Tampa's just killing it. Best defenseman so far is Roman Josi, 55 points. All right. Best goalie so far, Braden Holtby in terms of wins. Shutouts, it's Henrik Lundqvist, save percentage by starter. You're looking at Steve Mason. Damn, Steve Mason might have a Vezina. He's playing like he did in his rookie year in Columbus in real life. And then, yeah, Steve Mason might honestly have a Vezina in his game. That's kind of surprising. Any goalie goals so far for fun? Nope. Most assists, Varlamov. Best rookie so far this season is Mers, who was, I think, a pretty high up pick last year. Yeah, 3rd overall, Nolan, etc. All right. So everything's looking pretty good so far. Like, I don't feel like we really need to make adjustments unless we wanted to adjust that defensive thing we were mentioning earlier. But we don't really have to. Let's take a brief look at the trading block, and I think that'll probably be it. But let's go to the draft board for a second. What picks do we have this year? 1, 2, and then we have 4 third-round picks, 2 fourths. We could probably move some of these thirds if we really wanted to as well. But I don't know how this draft class is going to be. Like, do we have any steals that we could pin already? Just for fun. So far, maybe a elite goalie that's supposed to go late, but can't really tell. What about low elites? No guarantees on low elites, but Huey might be one as a grinder potentially. What about Odoline? Tough to say. Yeah, this draft class might not be a crazy one. It's tough to say right now, but at least there's still more time to scout. All right, let's look at the trading block briefly, just in case there's any trades to be had. But honestly, I don't think there's really anything I need to trade for. The only thing I would maybe consider trading is moving out Yakupov to find a better defensive winger on that third line. Because does Yakupov even have a lot of value? He's actually got more value than I expect. All right, so he might be a decent player to trade away. Is he definitely our worst player by far? I feel like he is in terms of plus minus. I didn't sort this to check, so let's double check this. Yeah, because if you look at the plus minuses on this team, a lot of good plus minus. He's by far the worst defensive player. Moss is a -5 only, but it's not a huge issue. Lotti's -3, couple -1s, but Yakupov has definitely been out there for a lot more goals against than he should be, I guess. All right, well, maybe he's a trade bait, but maybe he's not till the offseason, just because this team's been good enough. But let's take a look at the trading block just for fun, see what's out there. So Anaheim has Keith Ballard on the block. Atlanta has Enstrom on the block. Obviously, he probably wouldn't come here, I guess, just because it's not showing it in green. Boston has Eric Christensen on the block. Matias Payarvi, who used to play with us briefly. Sulzer, Jonathan Erickson, not really a lot there. Buffalo has Jeff Tambellini on the block. Calgary has nothing. Carolina has Mike Green on the block. I mean, I don't need a defenseman, but Mike Green is really good offensively. At least he was early in this franchise mode. It's actually kind of realistic to how Mike Green was in real life, though. Because in his years in Washington, really good stats. He leaves Washington and becomes more of a 40, 50 point defenseman. Has had some injury problems, it looks like, recently, though. So it is actually currently injured as I'm saying this, too. So 50 games last year, 52 this year. Yikes, yeah, his injury problems are not great, but he's still a very good defenseman. He cost probably way too much to bring in. There's also Yuri Talusti, Dustin Penner again, Yoni Pitkinen, Brendan Smith. I think that was Brendan Smith at least. Could have been somebody else. James Wisniewski, Christian Ehrhoff. There's some good defensemen out there. Kevin Shattenkirk, Scott Darling, Columbus, Cam Atkinson's on the block. Don't do this to me, game. I know when I see Cam Atkinson on the block, I really want him. 40 points this year, 21 goals. He definitely hasn't become the player he was in real life. Actually, maybe close enough. Not a 40-goal scorer like he was at one point, but really good playoffs last year. I would like Atkinson, but I don't think I could fit him in. He could be a replacement technically for Nail on that third line, but he is listed as a second line forward, and I don't think I could get him power play time. There's also Hamhuis, Muzzin, Gilbert Brule, Antoine Vermette. A lot of solid names actually so far. Ponikarovsky. But is it stuff that we need? Like, we don't really want to be adding too many veterans. Like, we have a good young team. We don't need to give up a lot of young players to get old, so to speak. There's Val Filppula, though, Jack Johnson, Matt Carl, Tim Gleason, and David Schlemko. Florida's got Eric Johnson on the block still. Anton Slepyshev. Damn, I forgot about making Slepyshev in this franchise mode. There's Franson, Barker, Butler. Yeah, there's a lot of D-men. Yannick Weber, Ian Cole. I don't need defensemen as the only thing, because I would want to promote guys from the AHL rather than those guys. Antti Ranta. All right. Andy Green, Braden Coburn, Trevor Daly, Bruno Gervais. Yeah, it's all defensemen on the block almost. Fedor Tutin. New York Islanders have Teddy Purcell on the block. The New York Rangers have Frolov on the block, Joffrey Lupul, Michael Grabner, Matt Gilroy, and Aaron Rome. Ottawa's got Mason Raymond. Ryan Miller's on the block. Damn, he's dropping like crazy. I didn't expect him to drop this fast, but 75 at 37 is outrageous. Wow, okay. Philadelphia, not really anything. Phoenix, James Neal's on the block. He might be losing morale. Yeah, I think they're scratching him, which is ridiculous because last year he didn't have the craziest season, but he's on 10 points in 22 games. But I think they're scratching him, and that's why he's dropped down to an 80. He's definitely like an 84 like he was before, I think. David Booth's there as well, Zach Boychuk, Robin Leonard, and also Brett Carson. Pittsburgh has nothing really. San Jose, nothing. St. Louis, Mike Lundin. Tampa, just some prospects because they're doing so well. Toronto's got Stempniak and Pominville on the block. Vancouver's got Adam McQuaid. And then Washington has nothing. I'm not too sure if there's really anything we would need to trade for on that block. Like I said, the only things we need to consider is if we want to move out a defenseman or not. And also if we want to move out from Yakupov too or not. So I'll leave it to that, I think. Let me know what you think on this, though. Should we still trade one of these defensemen despite being good? So that way we could get Rodriguez into the lineup full-time for the playoffs. Or Parayko even, for that matter. Should we trade Nail, even though he's not been the worst? He's been bad defensively, but, I mean, it does make us worse if we send him away. There is guys I guess we could call up, like we could move Val technically to the third line and then get Andrew Shaw in the lineup, but is Andrew Shaw going to help us much? Alto's not ready yet. He's kind of taken a little bit of time to develop as a medium elite, but he's not ready to go yet. Lowry's technically close, but I don't know if I would use him. Maybe I could use him as a right winger, tough to say. Spalling's down there too. We could always call up Nick Spalling as well. He's got good defensive results, so maybe. There's also that Schultz guy who's a 77 depth forward we could call up for the bottom six as well. So, I mean, we could potentially move out people, or we could kind of just stay pat and move those players more at the trade deadline instead. So, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 Franchise Mode. So, in next episode, we'll take it to the trade deadline. We'll see if we end up making any trades. If we don't so much, obviously it'll be fun to see what the AI does in terms of trades, but right now this team's looking really nice, 39, 22, and 3, and probably easily going to make it into the playoffs. So think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.